Fancy new logo. Alright, King's Quest VI. Air today, gone tomorrow. This is the very last of the King's Quest games that I have actually played. I've completed this game, although my memories of it are very fuzzy. I do not remember the puzzle solutions, I do not remember everything that we did simply because it was played by many people in my family. I do recall finding both endings, but I don't recall the stuff before that, so we'll see how this goes. Let's take a look at this lovely 3D rendered intro. Please be excited.
Long ago, in the castle of a kingdom called Daventry.
And we're not getting subtitles here, but we'll get them later, I promise.
Alexander, here you are. Oh, you're still not thinking about Cosima, are you?
I suppose I am.
Son, it's been months. You've got to pull yourself together. After all, you only met her that once.
I know.
Have you discovered anything about the land of the Green Isles?
No. No one's even heard of it. It's like she's just vanished.
I wish I could help. Please try to think about something else, dear.
I'll try, Mother.
You saw her for less than 5 minutes at the end of King's Quest V. You popped out of the bottle, and you saw her, and then she disappeared. And you've been thinking about her this entire time. Oh my god, these 3D graphics, these early 90s 3D graphics. They're incredible and absolutely terrible.
Alexander, I feel so alone. I don't know what to do. Alexander, I wish you were here. Alexander, Alexander.
Cosima! Wait! Mother! Mother, come quick!
Oh, that cat.
Alexander, what on earth? You're white as a ghost.
Mother, I saw Cosima. She was in the mirror.
In the mirror? The magic mirror?
Yes! And it showed me how to find her.
How?
The stars! I saw the stars outside her window. I can navigate by the stars.
Oh, Alexander, if you really go...
It will be all right, Mother. I promise.
Okay, two things. Firstly, I feel like the magic mirror is doing more harm than good at this point. I mean, yes, it helped save Daddy, but it whisked Rosella away to the land of Tamir, and now it's taken Alexander away from Valenice and Gran to a completely foreign land. Oh my god. These seagulls have almost no texturing on them. They're not flapping their wings, they're not. This is good stuff. The second thing is that I call complete bullshit on Alexander being able to navigate. Because for the first 18 years of his life, he was trapped with Manannan. He didn't have time to learn these skills. And it's been, I don't know how long since the events of King's Quest IV. It was implied that maybe it was a year or two, perhaps. But it's been only a few months since we escaped from that bottle.
3 long months, Prince Alexander sailed the known seas and beyond.
And he's been at sea for 3 months looking for these stars. The things we do for love. Or in this case, blind stupidity.
Land ho! Land ho! Land ho!
Alright, he did not come alone. He has a crew with him.
As the ship nears the shore, day turns to night and the sea turns violent.
Is that an unfortunate coincidence, or does that always happen when boats approach this place? We'll find out, I guess. Oh, look at this gorgeous, completely unnecessary 3D logo. Don't worry, the rest of the game is not like this. It's all 2D in the traditional style. Roberta Williams and Jane Jensen. That's a name that I mentioned during my Police Quest playthrough. She wrote a large part of Police Quest 3, and honestly, I think that's why I enjoyed that game. I'll get there when I get there, probably in about 6 months or so, but she was responsible for the Gabriel Knight series, which definitely is on my playlist. I'm looking forward to it.
Alexander awakens to find himself on an unfamiliar beach. For a moment, he is too dazed to remember how he got here. Then he does remember. The shipwreck, the sea. Just as he had seen his men safely into the lifeboats, a gigantic wave picked him up and tossed him overboard into the churning sea.
Okay, he's a good man. He saved his crew.
That was the last he'd seen of his crew. Debris from the shipwreck is scattered along the shore, but of the lifeboats and his men, there is thankfully no trace. He can only hope and pray that the lifeboats survived the currents, and that his men made their way safely back to Daventry.
Alexander, I'm not certain if you remember this or not, but you were sailing the sea for 3 months. They are not going to survive in a lifeboat for 3 months. I'm pretty sure that's not how this works. Alright, we're here, King's Quest 6.
Alexander is carrying nothing.
Firstly, it's not here. Don't ask me for it. Let's go about, and we'll have a listen to what happened in King's Quest 1 to 5. Please skip ahead if you've seen those previous playthroughs. I will not take a look at the King's Quest 6 option, simply because it's mostly credits for King's Quest 6.
King's Quest 1. Quest for the Crown. Long ago, in the Kingdom of Daventry, there were 3 magical treasures that kept the kingdom strong and prosperous. A magic mirror that foretold the future, an enchanted shield with the power to protect from any invaders, and a treasure chest that was never empty.
The magic mirror is evil.
These treasures were taken from Daventry by deception and stealth, and without them, Daventry grew poor and weak. King Edward, once a stout-hearted and vigorous ruler, had become powerless and sickly. Edward had no heir, and everyone feared that chaos would result from his death. King Edward asked his bravest knight, Sir Graham, to embark upon a quest to recover the 3 treasures. Despite many challenges, Graham's quest was successful. As his reward, King Edward named Sir Graham his heir and granted him the throne of Daventry. Thus began the reign of King Graham of Daventry.
I've been pronouncing it wrong very clearly.
King's Quest 2, Romancing the Throne. King Graham was a wise and kindly monarch. With his great wisdom and the return of the 3 treasures, Daventry prospered once more. But Graham knew that he must soon marry and establish his own royal line with an heir to the throne. The handsome young king searched far and wide for a bride, but no maiden captured his eye nor his longing heart. Then one day, King Graham saw in his magic mirror a vision of a lovely young woman held prisoner in a quartz tower.
And now we've seen Cosima in the mirror as well.
Was named Valanice, a girl both beautiful and wise. She had been stolen from her home and taken to a far land. Graham vowed to find her and set her free. After a long journey with many trials, he did just that. Gram asked Valanice to be his queen, and she agreed. Thus began the royal family of King Gram and Queen Valanice of Daventry. King's Quest III. To err is human. Queen Valanice and King Gram soon became the parents of twins, a son and a daughter named Alexander and Rosella. Life in Daventry was peaceful and good, for a time, but the young prince was stolen from his cradle, and the kingdom went into years of deep mourning.
17 years.
In a land far away lived an evil and powerful wizard named Mannanan. It was his wont to kidnap infant boys and raise them to be his slaves.
What is that pronunciation?
Before his slaves were full grown and could pose a threat to the wizard's dominance, Mannanan ridded himself of each in turn.
No thank you.
However, Mannanan's most recent vassal, a boy he called Gwydion, was unusually bright and perceptive. He mastered several of the wizard's spells and turned them against the tyrant to gain his freedom. Gwydion was, of course, the kidnapped Prince Alexander. After escaping Mannanan, Alexander's travels brought him to Daventry, not the lovely and peaceful Daventry of days gone by, but a land devastated by a terrible affliction. The kingdom had fallen victim to the ravages of a dreadful three-headed dragon. The beast had burned the land all around and killed many people. Alexander was able to use his newfound magical powers to destroy the dragon and rescue an intended victim, none other than Princess Rosella, his sister, from its lair. He was taken before King Gram and Queen Valanice, and the happy family was reunited. Daventry rejoiced and prospered once more. King's Quest IV. The Perils of Rosella. Shortly after Prince Alexander's return, King Gram's health began to fail.
The manual said several months.
The royal physicians were powerless to help him.
But the intro implied it was
Only
immediate.
A magical fruit from the faraway land of Tamir could bring about a cure and restore the health of Daventry's beloved monarch. Gram's daughter, Princess Rosella, set off in pursuit of this healing magic for her father. On her journey, she performed many brave deeds and had many great adventures. Princess Rosella's astounding success as an adventurer saved her father's life and ensured the kingdom's continued well-being once more. King's Quest V. Absence makes the heart go yonder. But Daventry's fortune was not to continue unchallenged. An evil wizard called Mordack, brother of the ill-fated Mannanan, was plotting revenge on the royal family.
Brothers, so they were siblings.
One day, while King Gram was out for a swim, Mordack used his evil magic to kidnap Valanice, Alexander, and Rosella, along with the entire castle of Daventry.
I thought he was just picking flowers, but okay.
Heartbroken and driven, King Gram resumed his adventurer's cap once more in a quest to rescue his family from the dread wizard's grasp. After traveling far and being sorely tested, King Gram thwarted Mordack's plans and rescued his entire family. In the process, Gram also released a stolen princess, Cassima, from her bondage in Mordack's castle, and sent her back to her home of the Land of the Green Isles. But not, that is, before Prince Alexander had become thoroughly and permanently smitten.
It was like 5 minutes. Crispin removed us from the bottle, restored us to full size, laid eyes on her, and bam, that was it. Man, honestly. Let's take a very quick look at the manual here. This is the abbreviated version from GOG. I'm not going to read this all just yet because it is chonky. I remember that part of this are the puzzle solutions, which we're going to need to look at for the Sacred Mountain or whatever it's called. But this manual is basically like a history of the Green Isles and someone visiting them. And it covers their travels and exploits and information, stuff that they learned when they visited the Land of the Green Isles. I think what I'll do is, as I get to the various islands, I'll come back to this manual periodically through the playthrough and take a look at it. For now though, the Land of the Green Isles is an ancient kingdom ruled by a royal family designated simply as the Crown. Its location so far from the rest of the known world, combined with the dangers of the surrounding sea, have effectively isolated it from the influence of other lands. This small kingdom might as well exist on a distant star as on the other side of an inhospitable sea. Because of this isolation, the citizens of the kingdom have a unique culture and a quiet naivete. I don't know how to pronounce that word. If one asks about the history of the land, they are eager to speak. Yet of true answers, little can be found. They can recite the names of the holders of the crown spanning back hundreds of years, can speak of each dwelling's origin, of practically every citizen's lineage, yet when I ask how the kingdom began, bewilderment is the response. The kingdom has always been, they say. There has always been a royal family. It is as if this place has existed unaltered since the dawn of time. But there is some basis for a different picture, that these islands have actually held a succession of kingdoms, each bleeding into the next, near civilizations building on ruins scarcely cold. I base this opinion on the traces and legends of an ancient civilization to be found on one of the islands, but more of that later. The kingdom as it stands today has remained relatively unchanged for hundreds of years. 4 islands make up the bulk of the land. The Isle of the Crown is the centre of the kingdom. There on a magnificent rise stands the Castle of the Crown, the seat of the royal family of the kingdom and the heart of the land. A village and docks comprise the rest of the island and run most of the kingdom's daily commerce, such as it is. Across a short distance of sea is the Isle of Wonder, an aptly named place of sheer delight ruled by a pair of rival queens who are, despite their own internal strife, unalterably loyal to the crown. The Isle of the Beast is the least hospitable of the islands. Seemingly deserted, I did not see much of the place since obstacles made it impossible to travel far inland. Nevertheless, the place has its own history and is listed among the kingdom's holdings. The 4th island is the Isle of the Sacred Mountain, so called for the soaring peak that rises from the base of the island into the clouds, and around which that community, both literally and philosophically, is built. The Isle of the Sacred Mountain has its own rulers who are also subservient to the crown. A more dissimilar set of cultures can scarce be imagined than those on these 4 islands, yet they seem to exist in harmony and function as a whole. The uniting factor is the crown, which maintains loyalty both by means of its undisputed heritage as a seat of all governments and by the grace of its goodly royal family. Peace has reigned for centuries in this idyllic kingdom and seems likely to continue. That is, as long as the land remains hidden from the evil that we know exists in the world. Though I am a stranger here, I hope not to influence this place overly much. Who would wish to change such a paradise? This place sounds beautiful. It sounds very peaceful. It sounds very orderly. It sounds like nothing will go wrong whatsoever. It has been isolated from the rest of the world, and no evil will come to it. Apart from, the bloke in the middle of the screen here. Alright, once again we have the icon interface up here. Walk, manipulate, look. Can I just say how upset I am that they've moved these two? It's always walk and then look, but no, they've moved it. I'm going to get that wrong so many times and I apologise in advance. Alright, so let's speed the game up a bit. Once again, we've got no options for speech and music sliders here, so hopefully it's okay. Let's have a look around.
The sky is sunny and clear. A few white clouds accent the bright blue.
That's our ship.
The remains of Alexander's sailing ship lie dashed upon the distant shore. Alexander is standing on a beach littered with debris from his shipwreck. A path leads north into the lush green island. An occasional breeze rustles the nearby foliage. Rocks abound on this lush volcanic isle.
Volcanic Isle.
The island is covered with lush green plants. A long plank lies on the beach. No doubt it once belonged to Alexander's ship. Rocks abound on this. Alexander has no need to carry around large rocks. Alexander pushes the plank to one side. A box has been partially buried under sand.
Ooh. Is that our box?
Alexander's treasure box lies partially buried in the sand. It must have washed ashore with the other ship debris.
It is.
The box must have opened in the sea, spilling its treasure. Everything has been washed away, except for one coin of Daventry.
Convenience?
There's a copper coin in the treasure box. The coin bears the seal of Daventry and King Graham's noble face.
Okay, let's take that.
Alexander takes the coin and leaves the ruined box where it is.
I see something sparkling on the left there.
Alexander's royal insignia ring lies abandoned on the sand. It must have slipped from his finger during the shipwreck. Fortunately, it was not lost in the sea. The ring in the sand cannot talk.
Oh boy. They've moved the order, damn it.
Alexander picks up his royal insignia ring from the beach.
Anything else around here?
The ocean appears calm, but there's a dimpling pattern to the surface which indicates an undertow.
Yeah, could we swim? I don't know.
Alexander has no taste for salt water. The currents continue to murmur, but they do not reply to Alexander.
Kiss. I think if I walk here, I'm going to drown.
The ocean is not as calm as it appears. Underwater currents tug at Alexander's legs. The underwater tow is amazingly strong here. It pulls ferociously at Alexander's legs. Before Alexander can retreat, the current grabs his legs. The shifting sand vanishes from beneath his feet. Against his best efforts, he is dragged out to sea. The currents around the island pull Alexander under. As Alexander struggles to the surface for the third and last time, he finds himself wishing he'd paid more attention to the warning signs of an undertow.
Tickets.
Oh,
Next.
that speech being cut off.
Nothing like getting swept off your feet.
Going into what looks like the land of the dead at the end there. As someone who lives near the ocean, if you can't stand within 1 meter of the beach, the shore, or whatever it's called, and not get swept away, I can't think of an appropriate thing to say. You're a terrible swimmer.
Alexander. The beach is covered with a fine-grained white sand. The sand is warm to the touch.
We cannot pick up the sand, unlike the desert sand in King's Quest III VGA.
Alexander. The ship is ruined. It has nothing further to offer Alexander.
Okay, let's head inland.
A path leads inland to the north. To the left, a small village seems to invite the weary traveler. In the distance, a majestic castle shines in the sun. Rocks abound on this lush volcanic isle. Large leafy ferns spread their fronds across the fertile ground. Large leafy ferns spread their fronds across the fertile ground. A grand old tree stretches its luxurious limbs out over the crossroads. Alexander is standing at a crossroads. To the left, he can see a village. To the right, a castle. From the south come the sounds of the sea. A hollow in the trunk of the old tree forms a perfect nesting place for wildlife.
There's got to be something in there, surely.
Rocks of Alexander.
Okay, I don't see anything else here. There's got to be something in there.
Alexander examines the tree's hollow, but finds nothing of interest.
Nothing. Okay, I suppose we better check out this castle. We are royalty after all. We can introduce ourselves, explain what's happened. Maybe this is where Casima's hiding.
Formal hedges and bushes provide dramatic landscaping for the castle.
They're not human.
2 guards take their stance in front of the castle doors. They look quite fierce and have the stiff, blank expression of soldiers on formal duty. The castle appears to be of Moorish architecture. Its marbled walls and delicate inlaid mosaics are unlike anything Alexander has ever experienced before. His own home, though lovely and dear to his heart, seems rough-hewn compared to this delicate beauty.
Dang. That's after it was restored.
The castle doors are firmly shut and bolted. The castle formal head rocks. There's a little hut just off the path. Perhaps the guard dogs have an occasional use for it, but it looks empty now.
Apologies for the accidental click. Guard dogs. Literally.
Alexander politely addresses the odd-looking guards at the castle doors, hoping to learn more about his predicament.
Good day to you, guards. I was cast upon this island in a storm, and I'm a little confused about my location. Could you tell me what place this is and who lives in this castle?
Hey, what is that you say? A castaway? A likely story. We haven't had any foreigners in this part since Alhazred arrived.
Who's Alhazred?
Don't be so rude, Gruff. He's not asking for any secrets. You're standing on the Isle of the Crown, lad, and this is the Castle of the Crown. The royal family resides here. Rather, what's left of the royal family.
The Isle of the Crown? But tell me, am I anywhere near the land of the Green Isles?
Oh, you're standing on it, buddy.
This is the land of the Green Isles. The Isle of the Crown is the main island, foolish boy.
Then Princess Cassima must live in this very castle.
Aye, the princess is indeed our treasured jewel to guard, and we consider it an honor.
Is she here, though, because they just said what's left of the royal family?
Excuse me, guardsmen. Guard dogs. I've been traveling for months to see Princess Cassima. I would like an audience, please.
I'm sorry, but the princess is not receiving visitors, particularly not strangers.
We are not a stranger. I mean, if you count the 5 minutes, we are not a stranger.
I really must see the princess. Could I speak with someone in charge?
Who are you that I should bother Captain Saladin, huh?
My name is Alexander. I am a prince of Daventry and a friend of the princess.
A prince, is it? I see. Yeah, and I am lord of this dusty path. Step aside. You'll not be getting into this castle without some proof of your claims.
We can show him the signet ring, but I don't understand how that will let him through, because they won't recognize it.
I assure you, I am Prince Alexander of Daventry.
And I assure you that you'll not get past me without proof.
Other than saying, "Ooh, that's a very pretty ring."
I assure you.
And
Oh, those icons are very small.
Alexander is carrying a copper coin of Daventry. King Graham graces the front of the coin. Alexander's ring is made of the purest gold and has the insignia of the royal family of Daventry on its face.
Will that be enough? I think it will.
Alexander decides to try his royal insignia ring on the guards. With all of his papers lost in the shipwreck, it is the only possible proof of his identity that he can think of.
Perhaps this ring will convince you of my identity. It is the royal insignia ring of Daventry.
Ha! I'm sure. Just let me take a look at that ring.
well, I'm sorry, Your Highness. It's just that princes are so uncommon in these parts. Let me get Captain Saladin.
Alright, he believes that at least, but I think that's stretching it a bit, because why would they believe any random guy who turns up with a very fancy ring?
The guard returns a moment later with a majestic-looking creature. Captain Saladin speaks with a voice that is gentle, but reflects a will of iron.
Prince Alexander of Daventry, I presume. I'm afraid I'm unfamiliar with your country, but I'm sure Vizier Alhazred will want to meet you, if indeed you are a friend of the princess. Please, follow me.
Cosima said at the end of King's Quest V that the Vizier is evil.
Lord Alhazared, a visitor to see you. Prince Alexander of Daventry.
What is it that you seek, Prince Alexander?
Your princess.
Pardon the intrusion, my lord, but I came to see Princess Cosima. Some months ago, my father, King Graham, saved my family and I from imprisonment under an evil wizard named Mordak.
The same wizard that kidnapped the princess?
Exactly. When my father rescued us, he also liberated Cosima and sent her home.
Then your father has my gratitude, and that of the entire kingdom. But I'm afraid I still fail to see the purpose of your visit.
Don't worry, so do I.
Well, I came to make sure that Cosima arrived safely and to pay my respects. Before we parted, she gave me an invitation to visit.
I have no doubt she did exactly that at the time, Prince Alexander. However, things have greatly changed for Cosima since her ordeal in Mordak's castle. Cosima's parents both became ill and died while she was gone.
Oh, jeez.
Cosima is sequestered in mourning for them as befits a princess. She is not receiving visitors of any kind. Even if she were, I do not think your visit would be appropriate. You see, it is time for Cosima to take her responsibilities seriously. With her parents gone, she no longer has the luxury to be a carefree maiden. As was her parents' wish, Cosima and I are to be wed.
Oof.
We shall rule the kingdom together. I assure you, our marriage is all Cosima wants now. As a prince and a gentleman, it would be best that you leave before there is any further embarrassment.
I see. I suppose that I was mistaken. I thought for certain that Cosima... Well, I apologize.
A young man sees what he wishes to see. I'm sorry you've wasted your time traveling to the land of the Green Isles. May your journey home be swift.
Perhaps I will take the opportunity to look around your fair land while I'm here.
I would advise against that. The kingdom is rather, shall we say, inhospitable these days. But it is your neck. You may risk it if you please. Captain Saladin will escort you from the castle. Good day.
The captain was ready to strike us down at any time? Really?
You have had your hearing with Vizier Alhazared. I trust you will respect his wishes and not return. I have been instructed not to let you into the castle again. Good day, my lord.
Captain Saladin whispers something to the guard dogs at the castle gate, and they nod with understanding.
Maybe that's orders to execute us if we get too close?
Alexander has a feeling they won't be letting him into the castle again.
Yeah, I think that Vizier is lying through his teeth, simply because at the end of King's Quest V, Cosima said the Vizier was evil. I cannot imagine, regardless of any 5-minute meeting between Alexander and Cosima, that Cosima would suddenly change her mind and say, yep, okay, I'll marry you. I was going to ask who is king or queen now that the parents are dead, because technically Cosima should be queen, right? But it sounds like the Vizier is going to marry Cosima. He's going to become king, and she'll become queen.
Please, if you'll only be reasonable. I really must see the princess.
Begone! You're not welcome at the castle, Prince Alexander of Daventry. We have our orders, and they are quite clear.
Please.
Yeah, we're not getting through there. I should have said it during the intro, but I'm not a huge fan of the way that we're dealing with another princess or damsel in distress. We had the same thing in King's Quest II, and it's been done, and we're just doing it again.
Alexander is standing next to the side wall of a castle. Unlike the well-guarded castle entrance, this area is deserted. Perhaps the guards are confident that the wall itself is impregnable enough to stop any would-be intruders. The side of the castle is one big blank wall. Vines have begun to climb the castle's stucco walls.
Can I climb that perhaps?
The path turns into dirt here and continues along the side of the castle. The bushes near the side wall of the castle have been left natural and unsculptured. Rocks abound. Alexander. The bushes. Alexander is. The side. Alexander's voice simply bounces back at him from the flat surface of the wall.
There's so much dialogue here.
The wall is quite solid. Alexander's hands would give way long before the wall did. Alexander has no. The bushes are probably not hiding anything useful. Besides, they are too prickly to examine closely. The vines are too flimsy to support Alexander.
I can't tell if that's a glass window up there on Oz.
The wall is
If it was, then maybe we could climb up there and climb into the window perhaps.
Alexander.
Alright, there is nothing on this side of the castle. Curious.
That way is blocked by heavy foliage.
Can we go down here?
The narrow path ends abruptly at a pile of boulders.
Okay, we can only go back this way. Also, I should mention that I'm definitely not drawing maps of this because I remember this game, and from what I remember, most of this game is linear.
There's nothing of interest beyond the castle.
In the sense that I should not need to draw a map of this area to remember it. Maybe I'll make some notes as I'm going through, just writing down the names of objects, people, places, stuff like that. But I will not be making a traditional map like I have with King's Quest 1 to 5 so far. I don't see the point. Okay, so now that we know where we are, we're on the Isle of the Crown, let's take another look at the manual. Looking at the left-hand side here, the Isle of the Crown. Of the 4 islands, the Isle of the Crown is the one which will seem the most conventional to travellers from distant lands. It is largely inhabited by members of the human race, men and women of pleasant disposition and generous hospitality. As stated earlier, the Isle of the Crown is comprised of the Castle of the Crown, we've been there, a quaint village, that's just off to the left, and the docks from which travel among the islands is commenced. The village on the Isle of the Crown is a small one. Its stucco walls gleam in the hot sun, its dirt paths are clean and well maintained, its vegetation is lush. The shop merchants are friendly and seem to delight in unusual trades, though little of mine survived a shipwreck. Okay, I assume this was not Alexander writing this. I assume that it was someone else, but they've also been shipwrecked. The few trinkets that I'd had on my person or managed to salvage from the shore were deemed unusual enough in that distant realm to obtain a few necessities. I also found the villagers eager to share what they had in return for honest work, so I have survived quite comfortably here. Village life is one of cheerful routine. The villagers rise at first light to do their chores before the tropical sun reaches its peak. Then a light midday meal is served. The bulk of the afternoon is reserved for indoor activities, reading and scholastics for the younger population, and naps for their elders. Everyone seems to prize this quiet time. When the sun goes down, communal activities are frequent. If there are no weddings or other festivities, I must admit that I am quite fond of these local celebrations, the families often gather informally for a plain but plentiful supper, music and conversation. Though most families are modest, none are in want. Servants are used in the more affluent households, but most of the citizens cheerfully rely on their own strong hands for the work of daily life. What serving class exists is generally well treated, though even in this gentle civilization, I did note a few exceptions. That's not good. Beyond the village lie the docks, a place of bustle and excitement. Even the humblest citizen of the Isle of the Crown frequently enjoys visiting the other islands in the kingdom. In return, it is not uncommon to see all manner of strange creatures frequenting the village shops from the kingdom's other islands. All travel between the islands is focused at the docks and indeed at a single vessel. A single vessel, really? That vessel is simply called the Ferry, and it is a pleasant enough little ship, well maintained as befits its value to the kingdom. The ferryman is a jolly fellow, patient even with the youngest of his passengers. His young son helps manage the vessel and keep her shipshape. The story of the ferry is an interesting one, particularly if you recall the fate of my own ship. The islands, it seems, have always been surrounded by terrible eddies and currents that make seagoing nearly impossible. We ran into a storm and we've already been taken out to sea in an undertow. The family that runs the ferry has done so for generations, each father passing on to his son the secret of the tricky navigation. Many believe that the ferryman's family line has an uncanny instinct for the sea around the Isles. It is said that they sail by the blood in their veins. One thing is certain, I would not venture to sail a ship in these waters, so whatsoever the secrets of the ferryman's family, thank the stars for us. This place seems designed to sink every ship that gets close. Curious. The Castle of the Crown. We have been here. The Castle of the Crown is a stunning place, giving testimony to the skill of the kingdom's architects and the richness of its treasury. The castle is a monument of marble, gold, and precious gems, with tall arched ceilings and artistic fittings. I am told that it was built 100 years ago by King Alfred, I think, as a present to his bride, Queen Astar. The previous castle, also called the Castle of the Crown, was large and drafty and had served as the seat of the royal family for over 300 years. It is said that King Alfred was cautious over his new bride's fragile health, and built the new palace with thick walls for protection from the high winds and cool hallways for respite from the blazing tropical sun. The castle is made even more exotic by the race of guard dogs that serve and protect the palace. Okay, the guard dogs have been there a while. These wondrous creatures seem to combine the best qualities of canine and human. I've just realised I didn't ask if we could pat the dog. Oh my god, I'll fix that immediately. Speaking in gruff voices and armed with swords or pikes, the guard dogs are strong and intelligent, and have loyally served the crown through the centuries. Despite my status as a stranger, I was granted a visit with the reigning king and queen. Their openness and accessibility, added to the lack of drawbridges, boats, or battlements of any kind, made clear to me the innocence of this kingdom that had never known war or treachery. And the vizier rocked up and ruined everything. Wow. Had I been a viper in disguise, I would have been granted an intimate audience just as readily. As a citizen of the larger, more dangerous world, it made me feel a little nervous and honour bound not to betray such trust in me. Okay, we know what's happened. I met the king and queen in the castle throne room. The throne room is a vast hall more ornate than anything these poor eyes have ever seen. Standing before the two thrones in that cavern of gold, I felt as though I stood before fabled Olympus itself. Olympus doesn't exist in this world, but okay. Yet, raising my eyes up slowly to those noble faces, I saw nothing of judgment in their eyes, nothing of disdain. Indeed, their faces were full of guileless welcome and kindness. As for the rulers of this kingdom themselves, King Calafim, though not a large man, has an air of strength and self-assurance about him. He has the face of a scholar and the eyes of a gentle benefactor. Of Queen Alaria, his beautiful wife, my first impression was of the hair of night and skin as pale as dawn. She smiled at me graciously, and I could see the sadness there. But despite the glory of the palace around them, the halls seemed to weigh on the couple with their emptiness. They are the last of the royal family, and, growing into middle age, have yet to produce an heir. So are we talking about Casima's parents here? If that's the case, how did the royal line continue? Maybe similar to Daventry, where they got someone from outside the line to serve as king? Not sure. The king and queen listened with interest to my tale of shipwreck. King Calafim asked astute questions of my homeland and the lands of my travel. He seemed to know something of other lands, perhaps from the same source that had brought the name of the land of the Green Isles to Daventry. Daventry's mentioned, okay. I don't know what to make of that. He was most curious and, as a thinker, seemed intrigued by any new idea I might offer. Unfortunately for him, my ideas on such things as kingdoms and civilizations were rather simple ones. I sensed that, despite his interest, he would be content to have those other kingdoms remain remote from his own. Neither hungry for conquest nor anxious for change, his kingdom would remain isolated. Indeed, except for the lack of an heir, it seemed the good king and queen did provide the kingdom with all it could ever desire. Having met the royal couple and recovered sufficiently from my ordeal at sea, I began to feel quite curious about the other islands in the kingdom, and so I put my itching feet in the care of the jolly ferryman. That is a lot of text. Oh boy. So there's a lot there. We have the names of kings and queens from the past. We have kings and queens present. I assume that Califim and Alaria were Casima's parents. Otherwise, how long ago was this arisen? It's not clear. Daventry is mentioned though. So someone has been to the land with the Green Isles before, but we don't know who that is. What we do know though is that Vizier Alhazred has rocked up. Casima's parents have passed away. He has now taken power. And according to what we heard at the end of King's Quest V, he is evil. And the way he was speaking to us in the castle definitely gave us that impression as well. Right, first things first. Can we pat the dog? I don't think we can. I think they're going to get supremely upset with us if we try that.
The guards of the castle gate look like efficient fighters, and there are doubtless more of them inside. Alexander decides not to try to force his way in. The guards of...
We are under orders not to let you anywhere near the castle, Prince Alexander. Be gone!
They've been guarding the royal family for centuries. And they are now guarding the vizier. Right, so let's go check out this village. A pawn shop, bookstore, a beggar?
An old beggar is peddling his wares in the village. He offers a variety of lamps, all neatly lined up on a long pole.
Apologies for the music skip, I accidentally clicked the mouse.
Old lamps for new! Old lamps for new!
Okay, if we find an old lamp, we can exchange it with this guy for a new one. I guess he's not interested in the coin, but let me not throw that away just yet.
Alexander is standing on a sunny village street. There are open shops to his right, a hard-packed path beneath his feet, and palm trees waving over his head. To the north, a key-shaped arch leads to another part of the village. Odd gourd-shaped jugs rest sheltered by the shade. They perhaps hold wine or water to be kept cool.
Old lamps for new!
I hear you, dude.
There's a battered wicker chest in front of a shop. A tall earthenware vase is one of the pottery pieces on display outside the shops.
Okay, there's a lot on this screen.
A small round pot is one of the pottery pieces on display outside the shops. A large round pot is one of the pottery pieces on display outside the shops.
We get a description of every pot.
Alexander examines the large pot. It's currently empty, but a few scraps in the bottom indicate that it is used as a dump site on occasion.
I'm guessing something will appear in there later.
Alexander is not in the market for pottery just now in his life. Alexander is not in... The battered chest does not interest Alexander. It's probably full of plain earthenware. Alexander isn't interested in the gourd-shaped jugs. Alexander is standing. The sign says pawn shop. The villagers bustle about their chores. They seem a busy, if somewhat subdued lot.
I wonder how the villagers think of the vizier rocking up and the royal family disappearing.
The pawn shop window has the words curios and antiques painted on it. What an interesting looking shop. The village buildings are made of rough sandstone stucco. This one houses a pawn shop at the street level and features rough wooden supports accenting the roof line. Steps lead up to the shop door. Alexander. The peddler's pole provides convenient transportation of the lamp seller's wares. There are 6 new lamps on the pole.
I suppose we better speak to him.
Good day, peddler.
Good day, sir. If you would like to get one of my fine new lamps, I'll need an old lamp in trade.
Isn't it a rather bad business? Taking old lamps and giving new lamps in exchange?
Oh, Alexander.
There's always a chance that I'll find a genie. If I had a genie, I'd be richer than a king. Besides, there's always a roaring business in antique luminaries.
There's a market for old stuff, dude. As a prince, I would say that you should know that, but you haven't realized that you're a prince until the last 2 years or so.
Alexander is standing on a sunny village street. Wooden shutters frame the village's windows. Alexander, a key-shaped arch. The village continues to the north through a key-shaped arch.
Let's check out the pawn shop first, if we can.
Good day.
I'm intimidated.
The pawn shop is a dimly lit place with a slightly musty smell. Curiosities litter every corner and every shelf. For sale are articles that range from the bizarre to the commonplace, from the priceless to the practical. Towering mightily over the other pawn shop curiosities, the stuffed bear makes an ostentatious display. A strange-looking winged device occupies one corner of the room. It is frail with disuse. Alexander finds it intriguing. Perhaps he thinks it was once used in a local sporting event, in which enthusiasts jumped from cliffs, glided on air currents, and then attempted to land, frequently crunching a bone or two in the process. Alexander shudders at the thought and decides to stick to dragon slaying.
It's early, but I'm just going to say right now, I really like this game's writing.
A worn leather wineskin is suspended from the ceiling. A horn, probably used for drink or powder, hangs from the ceiling.
There's so much stuff here.
A tall skeleton lends an air of mystery to the shop. A helmet, probably belonging to the headless armor also in the shop, has found its way to a separate part of the counter. An old suit of armor stands in the pawn shop. It looks like a vigilant guard against thieves and carpet salesmen, even though it is headless.
Really? Carpet salesman?
A small red drum beats no more on the shelves of the pawn shop. The pawn shop is a dimly lit. A few well-aged barrels probably hold assorted smaller goods and perishables. A lady's hand mirror has been separated from its original trousseau, and now gathers dust on the pawn shop shelves. The pawn shop, several half-burnt wax candles have been placed among the other pawn shop items. They probably light the shop at night.
Why is that necessary?
The land of the Green Isles must have at least one inhabitant with interest in the mystical, for a crystal ball has been traded in along with the more common household goods.
I would think that the store would be closed at night.
The back wall of the shop holds various odds and ends. For example,
there we go.
A hull hole detector for finding those hard-to-spot holes in small sailboats. Cat cookie mix. Play tricks on your friends, the box says. A golden bridle finder for finding those nearly invisible golden bridles.
These are all references, aren't they?
Self-adhesive emeralds, what you use when you don't have honey. Tongue climbing gear, tested on over 100 whale tongues.
I need a minute. Okay, I'm back.
A uvula tickler, guaranteed to make large mammals sneeze. A cheese hook for retrieving cheese out of small holes.
These are all puzzle solutions to the previous games.
A shovel that's guaranteed not to break for over 100 grave diggings.
But we can't use it to whack the zombies.
A bridge repair kit for when you've crossed a bridge one too many times.
One too many times being 7.
Stair traction pads. Stop slipping off those narrow staircases. A hole hold cat, a gold a cheese.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this. I'm really enjoying the writing. They clearly had some fun with this. Not just that, but the descriptions of these items here, they're so descriptive. I love the language. This is good stuff.
The back wall of the shop holds various bottles and potions. For example,
King's Quest 3 stuff?
a bottle labeled Owl Courage Potion for spineless owls.
No, but that's also excellent.
A bottle of Gnome Begone.
Actually, hang on. No, it wasn't a gnome. It was a troll. I mean, yeah, the gnome was a... I'm not going to use the word that I want to, but the troll was blocking the bridges. We didn't have a problem with the gnome.
Miniature carpet cleaner for those castles in a bottle.
Cues.
Bird's nest soup mix, treasure not included.
I assume that's referring to the golden egg inside the bird's nest in King's Quest 1.
Garlic, especially grown for vampire resilience.
We didn't use garlic in the previous game, did we? We used a steak and a malice.
Magic mirror glass cleaner for when your future looks fuzzy.
Again, cues.
Shark repellent. A small box of enchanted sorcerer's flea and tick collars. A bottle of Gnome Begone. Miniature carpet.
This is good stuff. What's on the counter here?